Welcome everyone to another League of Women Voters candidate forum for the 2020 election. My name is Barb Hedrick. I will be your moderator this evening. Greg Dance will be your timekeeper, running the clock that you see on the left-hand side of your screen. And Katie Rudder was your great organizer who got us all together and understands how to handle all of this. Our Zoom master. We are also joined today by Barry Amundsen, observing live for the Fargo Forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization which encourages informed and active participation in government, and works to increase understanding of major public policy issues and seeks to influence, on occasion, public policy through education and advocacy. We envision a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate. The candidate forum we are holding tonight via Zoom is part of this effort, and we encourage all citizens to join us when these are posted on our Facebook page and YouTube page and handed around. And we hope everybody who is eligible votes on or before November 3rd. So tonight we have two wards for the City Council in Moorhead. We are going to start with Ward 2 with Laura Carone, who's running unopposed. She will read a statement. Laura?
Thanks, Barb. Well, my name is Laura Carone, like she said, and I am running for Moorhead City Council in Ward 2. When I moved to Moorhead to attend Concordia College, I never expected that I would fall in love with this community the way that I have. But 18 years later, my family and I are so proud to call Moorhead our home. And that's really why I'm running. Moorhead has given us so much, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to give back and to serve on our city council. I'm excited to build on Moorhead's incredible momentum and keep moving our city forward together. As an 18-year resident, parent of a student in Moorhead Public Schools, homeowner, activist, and entrepreneur, I care about the future of Moorhead. Through collaboration with citizens, our city staff, businesses, and organizations in our community, I will work to make our city an even better place to live, work, and grow for all of our residents. People might know me from my work as part of Lady Boss Midwest, and I think that's a good representation of what you can expect from me as a member of Moorhead City Council. I'm passionate about helping women succeed in all areas of life, and having a seat at the table to be a part of making decisions for the community really allows for an even greater position to advocate for women and their families. 2020 has been a year that has uncovered vulnerabilities and weaknesses in our systems, our structures, financial security, and even our own health. My hope is for the city that we not only rise to the challenges our community is facing, but take this as an opportunity for examination and to become an even stronger, healthier, more inclusive, and welcoming place to live and work. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. We'll now move on to Ward 1. We have 5 candidates with us this evening. I will let them introduce themselves as we will begin with opening statements from each candidate of 1 minute and 30 seconds. And I have put the names in a random order. So we will start with Quinlan Overlord.
Hi, I'm Quinlan Overland. I'm running for Ward 1 City Council. I moved to Moorhead in 2014. I had previously lived in Fargo, and prior to that, I grew up in Michigan. Moving to Moorhead, I felt like I finally found the community that I could relate to and that I wanted to be involved in, and I pretty much jumped in heads first getting involved. You might have seen me either at giving out food at Dorothy's Pantry, sorry. Or walking women to the women's clinic as an escort. I've also been involved in lots of other nonprofit organizations, just trying to get people to have all the essentials that they need to survive and to help make their lives a better place. I hope Moorhead residents can find a good person to sit on the council to represent them in helping them find exactly what they need to have done for themselves. I always get nervous. I think that this would be a great opportunity for somebody who's trying to find hope and can listen to their community members. Thank you.
Thank you, Quinlan. We knew now Christine Thompson.
Hello, I'm Christine Thompson, and I'm running for City Council in Ward 1. When I moved here in 1992 with my husband Malcolm, we raised two beautiful children, and we love calling Moorhead our home. My campaign is founded on 4 basic pillars: community, communication, collaboration, and creativity. I believe that communication is key. It's necessary to have open communication between constituents and council members. It breeds trust and further understanding of the issues that are important to voters. In terms of creativity, I think we need to find creative responses to today's challenges. And we can do that through my third pillar, collaboration. I believe that we cannot work alone in silos, that we need to garner all of the support of stakeholders in the community. And I think that for the most part, Moorhead runs really well, but there are some challenges that we must face. Specifically, the COVID crisis will leave us looking at a financial deficit, which will require creative solutions to manage that shortage. Thank you.
Matt Gilbertson.
Good evening. I'm Matt Gilbertson. My wife and I, Kim, are lifelong Moorhead residents. We were raising 3 children in Moorhead. Our last one is a freshman in high school. We met in Moorhead. We went away for college, and we decided where do we want to raise our kids. So we moved home from the state of Washington. Been in North Moorhead again now since 1998. We bought our first house in August of '98. Been there ever since. I started a business in Moorhead in 1999, and that continues today. I've started 2 nonprofit organizations for the youth of Moorhead. Those continue to get stronger. I've got the leadership. I know the residents of North Moorhead. You know, they're very passionate about their community. They're lifelong residents of the community. You know, through my experiences, I can be a leader and a voice for the residents of North Moorhead. You know, the ward's gotten bigger now. We've got an Oakport Township, so that brings in some other challenges. And you know, talk about the COVID-19. There's gonna be issues coming forward, and North Moorhead needs a listener, an advocate for them, and a leader to help lead the city through this short-term transition and continue the momentum in Moorhead.
Thank you. Alexa Dixon-Griggs.
Hi, I'm Alexa Dixon-Griggs, and I'm running for Ward 1 because I'm truly invested in Moorhead. We have such a diverse population with many different talents and strengths. I'm not an expert politician by any means, but I consider myself a pretty well-seasoned advocate. I've dedicated my career since graduating from MSUM to advocating for those without a voice, and I hope to do the same for Ward 1. Currently, I serve on the board for Moorhead Public Housing. I was appointed by Mayor Judd in 2019. I recently led the implementation of a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee at my agency, CAPLP, a nonprofit here in Moorhead. And I currently serve as an appointed member of the Minnesota Department of Human Services Performance Council, where we evaluate performances by counties around the state. I'm hoping to bring those experiences of serving people of color, low-income Minnesotans, first-time home buyers, people experiencing housing insecurities, my leadership and advocacy on the City Council. I truly believe that Moorhead is the best place to live, work, play, and be a family. I'm committed to working with the residents of Ward 1 to ensure our voices are heard and accounted for in the things that matter to us. I'm dedicated to working with Ward 1 to create the community that we want. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ryan Jensen.
All right, hello neighbors. My name is Ryan T. Jensen. I am husband to Kristen and father to Layton, Zoe, and Presley. I'm running to represent Ward 1 on the Moorhead City Council because I consider my community to be an extension of my family. And just like I strive for the best for my family, I will always do what I believe is best for Moorhead. I have an MBA from North Dakota State University and a Bachelor of Science from the University of Idaho. I am currently in management at a manufacturing company with a global footprint where I'm responsible for budgeting, forecasting, new product introduction, and systems integration. I have been a state bank examiner, a police officer and detective, and a small business owner. I feel that my diverse background and experience, including entrepreneurship, public service, and corporate leadership, uniquely qualifies me for a position on the Moorhead City Council. Among my top priorities are to rejuvenate the relationship between the police and the public through greater transparency, greater accountability, and greater trust. I will empower community profit and business initiatives that promote the common good. I will work to foster feelings of pride and belonging to the community of Moorhead through city programs designed to be inclusive, accessible, and enriching. You can visit my website at jensenformoorhead.com, that's JENSEN, to learn more about me and my positions, to contribute to my campaign, or to connect with me on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, everyone. We will move along now to questions. One little thing, Ryan, you froze up there just a little bit, but if anybody gets booted off because of your internet connection, just come back in as soon as you can, and we'll fit you in to the question the best we can. All right. So as soon as we get the timer back up here, we will ask the first question. Everyone will be able to answer every question, and you get 1 minute to do so. Feel free to take a pause before you start, if you wish. We won't start the timer until you start talking, and then if you run over a little bit, I won't interrupt you till you finish your thought. So hopefully we can get the timer back up here in a sec.
Can everybody see the clock?
That's coming back up now.
All right.
All right. So these questions were solicited, and most of them were sent in by fellow Moorhead residents. And so we will begin with the first question with Christine. In your opinion, what is the biggest challenge facing Moorhead right now? How would you use your position to address this challenge?
I think one of the biggest things that is facing Moorhead currently is the lack of affordable housing, especially hurtful and harmful to new Americans who struggle to find adequate space at a price they can afford. I think that there are a number of possibilities and potential collaborations that will allow us to create affordable housing for those in need. Housing is one of the important basic needs in society, and along with that comes the ability to work. And I think work is an equally important issue that needs to be addressed. Workforce development, the development of small business, and the development of skilled workforce will make Moorhead strong. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt. Ready, Matt? There we go.
Yeah, I thought it was third, but oh well.
We rotate who goes first each time.
Oh,
so.
okay, I gotcha. I think our biggest challenge is in Moorhead is we need to level the playing field with our neighbors to the west. I've had multiple people tell me that it can be more expensive to build in Moorhead from a commercial aspect and a residential aspect. I think that causes us to drive up the cost because there's certain entities and companies that won't do business in Moorhead. I'd like to work with our neighbors to, figure out a way to level that playing field so it's not more expensive. We're more in tune with North Dakota than we are Minneapolis. A lot of the state policies and codes are run through the state of Minnesota. So we're up against a challenge that needs to be, that continues to be addressed. We've seen great growth in the last couple of years, by more construction in the last 2 years than the last 20. And we just need to continue working down that path.
Thank you. Alexa?
I think that Moorhead's biggest issue right now is affordable housing, of course, but more specifically, not addressing poverty at the root. I've worked with those experiencing homelessness for the last 5 years, and housing is definitely the answer. And I really believe that that is my #1 priority, and that is what I want to work towards on City Council. But when you dive deeper into housing, I think that the root is generational poverty, addiction, things like that. And so I think that as a community, we need to be better about addressing those things, starting, in the school system, making sure that our kids are feeling supported, having programs and community opportunities to become a better inclusive Moorhead. And so we need to really take care of our residents. And in order to do that, it starts with addressing the root issues of housing, poverty, food insecurities, and things like that. Thank you.
Ryan?
Yeah, I think a big issue facing Moorhead right now is that people don't feel like their voices are being heard and given the right amount of weight in decisions that are being made. As a city council member, I would open the lines of communications to everyone in the community, invite everyone to the table, and be sure that their voices are both heard, respected, and integrated into decisions that are being made. This goes from all departments, whether it's the police, public service, infrastructure, parks. We want to be able to hear from the residents, because ultimately we serve the residents, and we serve at the willingness of the residents. And if we're not willing to listen to them and to listen to what they have to say and what affects them, then we're just not doing our job as a city council. Thank you.
Quinlan?
I think the biggest challenge is community resiliency. We always band together really strong when there's an emergency, but it would be nice if we had if we were more resilient to change in the environment or economically, so then that way we had less of those painful emergencies where we all had to get together and save our town or save the neighborhood, and just had a better buildup of programs or like a financial base for protecting our community against any environmental or economic issues that came up.
Thank you. Okay, everybody, we got through the first question. We're rolling now. This question number 2, we will start with Matt. And this is it's going to take me a little bit to read all of this question. Moorhead residents and businesses, particularly those in Ward 1, live with a very limited number of railroad underpasses. There has been discussion of constructing additional underpasses, possibly beneath the tracks along 11th Street. Would you support their construction as a city council person? And if so, how would you work to advance their construction?
Yeah, as a resident of North Moorhead, as Ward 1, I am in favor of the underpass. $90 million seems like a lot of money. I've been to a planning session last August in the center mall that showed the design of the underpass. And it's certainly a nice looking structure that would alleviate the weight and the emergency medical teams to be able to cross into North Moorhead fairly easily. There's going to be some issues with the few remaining businesses along that route. Most of them are gone. So those businesses would have to be dealt with on a one-on-one basis to come up with a fair and equitable situation. But it's also federal. There's a lot of federal money, so it's going to take some time to get that processed. And you know, I know the city of Moorhead is working diligently on that, and I know that is a top priority.
Thank you. Alexa?
Yeah, I live on 11th Street right now, and so I understand the need for the underpass for Ward 1 here. I do support the underpass. I think that with the construction or the build of the underpass, there will be some collateral damage, and so I think as a city council member, I would really work hard to support the surrounding businesses to make sure that they feel supported by their city and by the constituents to make sure that we can keep those businesses thriving. As a council member, I think our main job is to work for the residents. And so as far as what I can do, it would really be what the city of Moorhead residents want. And I think constituent input is the most important part of our job. And so that would be my main priority, is getting the information from the people and relaying that back to the city and using that to inform any decisions that I make.
Thank you. Ryan?
Yeah, this really is a public safety issue when response times for the police, fire, and EMTs are hampered by the 2 or 3 sets of train tracks that they have to cross to get to the north side or to the south side. The Main Avenue and 21st Street underpass will alleviate some of that, but that's in the works. For the middle of town, it's kind of up, we're stuck behind those trains frequently. I fully support the 11th Street underpass idea. I believe that we need to exhaust all sources of state and federal funds for that project. And if so, we need to dig deep here as well, just realizing the benefits that underpass would bring. Now, there is another underpass by the mall. I believe that the access to that underpass is infrequently used and perhaps a little difficult to get to. We may want to study renovating that area to make it easier to traverse. Thank you.
Thank you. Quinlan?
So I do support the underpass on 11th. I live on 14th, so I know exactly how hard it is to be stuck by those trains constantly. Even when you do use the mall underpass, you can sometimes just get a surprise and be stuck behind the trains. I would definitely talk to our federal representatives and our state representatives to try and get more funding for our underpasses, because it is such a safety issue, that it is something that we need. It's not something that we can really go too far from without, even with EMT responses being under 8 minutes in the state of Moorhead, which is actually a lot better than it is nationally. It's still far too often deadly to have a patient wait that long before they can get services to them. So I would try to do everything possible to make it safer for residents in Moorhead.
Thank you. Christine?
Right. I totally support the grade separation at 11th Street. And I think, as people who've spoken ahead of me have noted, the safety issue. But I think there's also another issue that nobody's really talked about. And yes, while we will impact some businesses, the access to the downtown corridor will be much improved. So traffic flow patterns will allow for people to move through the downtown area, and hopefully with the development of downtown, it'll become a bustling destination point. So, I think that grade separation is impactful on a number of different levels, and I agree that we need to pursue state, federal funding, and perhaps the railroad itself could kick in some dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, we will start with Alexa. What is your vision for downtown Moorhead?
I would love to see downtown Moorhead compete with downtown Fargo. I think that North Moorhead, or NOMO as it's being branded, I hear, has the potential to really be a hotspot. I think that the proximity of the buildings and the walkability and things like that of the space downtown Moorhead is a really great opportunity to have businesses move in, restaurants, shops, things like that. I would just love to see more activity. I think that Moorhead, we have gotten a couple breweries, we've gotten a couple of some some activity now, and I think that that's a great momentum we need to keep up. And I would love to see some local folks step up and take advantage of the opportunity and have our city support them in that and make sure that they can survive in downtown Moorhead. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan?
Yeah, we're starting to see a lot of the benefits that downtown Fargo began to realize 10 to 15 years ago when they began renovating buildings, tearing down vacant buildings, and building up empty lots. We need to promote more of that. We need to promote small businesses coming to downtown Moorhead, professional services, taxes, accountants, things like that, to make it a destination where you can finish multiple steps of your shopping trip in one stop. We also need to address parking if we are going to be building up downtown Moorhead. One thing that downtown Fargo had against it was that it didn't have any parking spaces, and it quickly became a difficult time to get down there. They've fixed that with parking ramps and surface lots. We also need to consider that in the future of downtown Moorhead.
Thank you. Quinlan?
So as hopefully a future business owner in downtown Moorhead, I hope to own a daycare down there. I have to say that I really hope for a walkable, diverse place for people to shop and have their businesses going. I believe in public transit down there for the ability for people to move from one side of downtown to the other side of downtown. Just lots of green space, which Moorhead is great at green space. The art, I love all the art, just expanding that to be different kinds and varieties. And then that way all the small businesses, it's not just you're going there to shop, but you're also going there to like experience downtown. And that's what people come back every time for, is that experience.
Thank you. Christine?
I think one of the things that we need to do in downtown Moorhead is to decide how to handle the Center Mall, City Hall discussion. Center Mall is, for the most part, vacant. And while there have been some small businesses and restaurants opening there, we do have a large portion of that mall that could be used for a variety of purposes. And I think that the city council needs to discuss that as City Hall sits on that property. And I would really like to see that plan incorporated into a greater vision for downtown Moorhead and employ perhaps a consulting company to come in and provide a vision for downtown Moorhead as well. Thank you.
And Matt?
This is what gets me excited about being on the city council, is the vision that people talk about downtown Moorhead. Like they mentioned before, downtown Fargo is fantastic. You know, the growth they've had in the last, handful of years. You look at the growth we've had on Center Avenue. We've taken some dilapidated buildings, turned into residents. You've got buildings going up on First Avenue. You got a building up on Main. We've had more buildings go up in the last few years. We've got a dedicated economic development in downtown Moorhead Inc. with Derek LaPointe. Moorhead Business Association has been around for 10 years. That continues to grow. There's a lot of passion from these businesses in Moorhead. I've seen the plan. I've seen some of the plans. We got to bring in the Roars in on plan for the Center Mall. Just need more people to, more financial resources to come in and help develop downtown Moorhead. The future is really bright in downtown, just has to keep going.
Thank you. The next question, we start with Ryan, and this actually brings up a topic several of you brought up earlier. What ideas do you have for how we can deal with the issue of affordable housing?
Increasing property values, it has both a positive and a negative. For present homeowners, it increases their ability to move upward, to exercise their equity, to improve their quality of life. But for those who are looking to get into home ownership, they can very quickly get priced out of the market. I believe that we in Moorhead need to increase incentives for builders of homes for first-time home buyers, whether that's 150,000, 175,000 or less, so that we have good quality, reasonable housing that's available for those who do want to move into home ownership. And then for renters, we need to make sure that with the growing market and growing downtown, that renters who are on the lower side of income aren't being priced out, aren't seeing rent increases that go above market just to get a different type of renter in there. Thank you.
Thank you. Quinlan?
So for more affordable housing, I would say we should offer incentives to builders and landlords to offer more lower income housing when they build. Because right now, when you look at what they are building, they're building luxury apartments. And those tend to be way out of the price range for a lot of the people who would need the housing. So offering an incentive for them to do mixed housing. So some of it is lower income, some of it's higher income, and that they accept like housing vouchers would really help, because then more people would be able to get into the same building. And then that help would allow them to maybe move up in the world, because when you have that housing, suddenly a lot of other things become more possible. So it helps everybody to get people into housing they can afford.
Thank you. Christine?
Right. Affordable housing is a key issue. It's something that I'm very passionate about. One of the things that I would like to see is we have a number of homes, especially in the older part of North Moorhead where I live, that could benefit from rehabilitation and provide affordable options for people trying to buy their first home. And I think there needs to be some incentive, and the city has the capability and the capacity to create those incentives to builders or remodelers to come in and make these homes livable and updated to meet the demands of 2021. So I think what other people have said about mixed housing is dead on. And I'd like to see us move in that direction.
Thank you. Matt?
As our community continues to evolve and diversify in both its residents and workforce, the one constant during these unprecedented times is affordable housing. We were in a meeting 6 weeks ago now with the City of Moorhead, and they announced that there's a new affordable housing project going up. Not exactly sure where that was, but when I bought in '98, our property tax, the homestead credit, was considerably less than it was in Fargo, and as over the years, it seems like that's maybe lessened. Our specials are cheaper than in Fargo. We need to continue expanding the border credits and address the building codes that make it more expensive to build in Moorhead. If we can lower the cost of construction, then ultimately we can lower the cost of construction and make all housing more affordable.
Thank you. And Alexa?
I think that there are a couple different ways to address affordable housing. To echo what the folks before me have mentioned, I agree with Christine that we need to rehab existing properties. I agree that we need to continue building, and I think that kind of like what Quinn was saying, when we do build, we need to make sure that there are a certain percentage or a certain number of units that are dedicated to our low-income residents, and low income more specifically, those living under the federal poverty line, to ensure that we are not letting some of our residents fall through the cracks. I also think that investing in diverse housing options is super important. So not everyone wants to live in an apartment, not everyone wants to be a homeowner, and so creating opportunities for folks to have a mixture, like a community land trust or something like that, where folks can have options and live in the community way that is comfortable for them. I think we need to look at it from a different lens and attack it from all different angles.
Thank you. We begin with Quinlan again now. Multiple studies have established that the arts make significant contributions to a community's quality of life and economy. With this in mind, how will you advocate for the arts as a city council person?
So Moorhead does really great for art in itself. We already have art everywhere, but I do, as somebody who works with early childhood, I truly appreciate art being around in the community simply because then it gives something for you to talk about when you're with children. I would definitely advocate for a more diverse selection of art that goes on in our community. Right now we have our murals that are up, and then a few of the ones that are statues around town. And then of course our sidewalks and our benches that just came up. I would continue to ask for different varieties, especially the artists in Moorhead always come up with the most amazing things. So just giving a grant and being able to say, well, what can you do with that grant? We can come up with some amazing results. So I'd continue to ask them what they want to do.
Thank you. Christine?
Sure, I think one of the things that that I'm really proud of is my work on the Moorhead Public Service Commission and the art on the water towers. I've been a part of that process, and now we have planned the fourth and final tower. The I-94 tower will have artwork on it as well, and that's exciting. There are options, I think, for fine arts as in the community. We have a theater. I don't know that it's well advertised. It's located right across the street from where I live, Theater B. We have a wonderful museum that I hope people take advantage of. We have the opportunity to incorporate art in the development of downtown, more artistic endeavors. I think there's room for arts all over Moorhead. We just have to be smart enough and creative enough to find it.
Thank you. Matt?
I'll be honest, I'm not really an art person, but I'm into sports, I'm into outdoor, I'm into beautification, I'm into diversifying the city. You know, we're big enough and we have enough opportunity to provide different things that different people are looking for. My daughter's got two of her art pictures are on the concrete sidewalks, one outside of Hornbacher's and one outside of the bar on A Street. You know, so it's kind of brings some community to the kids that were able to, you know, put their artistic design on the city. We've got the MCOM Center, we've got the Ruhr Art Museum. You know, I'm all in favor of, you know, like classified as beautification of our city and giving the residents different options for how they want to spend their time.
Thank you. Alexa?
I love Moorhead for its arts and diverse arts, I should say. I think that in order to promote that, we need to make it as something that is just ingrained into our community. And so when we're building new buildings, when we're developing downtown, we need to really have art be a part of the conversation. And that could be sculptures or paintings, murals, whatever it might be. I want to really promote local Moorhead residents and the talent that we do have here. I also think that art can bring a lot of people together. And so in order to get community buy-in and to have people really invested in Moorhead, the way that we all are while we're running for city council, I think that art is a great way to do that. And so incorporating that into our planning and things like that is a huge way to continue the arts in Moorhead.
Thank you. Ryan?
My oldest is an amazing artist. I don't know where she got that from. It wasn't from me. But just because I'm not an artist myself doesn't mean that I don't appreciate art. I would be open to any ideas that artists and those creative individuals have. Through my daughter, I see how important an individual's expression is. I want to be able to provide the canvas for those artists to create, whether that's the power boxes that you see at the stoplights, whether it's transformers in the neighborhood, or sidewalks like we already have in a few places. I want to see Moorhead opened up to let every resident who wishes to express their creative passion and feel like part of the community.
Thank you. We're running low on time, so we have time for one more question before we go to closing statements. And this is an unusual question to finish with, so I'm curious to see what y'all have to say about it. Many cities, including neighboring Fargo and even far-flung Brooklyn, New York, make reasonable allowances to permit residents to keep chickens for the purpose of producing eggs for their household. Where do you stand on the issue of urban chickens? And we start with Christine.
Well, chickens aren't that far from turkeys, and turkeys are prevalent all over Moorhead, but we seem to have quite a few of them in North Moorhead. Where I stand on chickens is I think that properties that are 1 acre or above and have the capacity to house them effectively should be given that option. I live on a lot that has is just slightly bigger than a postage stamp, and I can't think of any way I would want my neighbors who also live on similar sized lots to have chickens. So there's my answer. It might not be popular, but no to chickens. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Matt.
Yeah, I don't think any place in Moorhead's big enough to have chickens. Turkeys are bad enough, although it is nice wildlife to have, running around the neighborhood. I still think they're feeding them on 11th Street, might be part of the issue. But yeah, no to the chickens. They're if you want to raise chickens, you can move out to the country. Eggs are cheap. You're not going to, you can buy processed chicken, you can buy fresh chicken. Economic development, go buy it from the grocery store. I also say no to chickens in town.
Thank you. Alexa?
I am pro chicken. I think that as a homeowner, I would like to be able to make my entire property a place where I can raise my own food and vegetables and things like that. I think as a homeowner, that's a great perk that you have. And so I think that chickens, if owned responsibly, obviously with limitations, would be a great addition to our community and a great way, once again, for our residents to have some buy-in. You can create your own meat, you can create your own eggs, you can do all of that in your own backyard, and you can really invest that back into your community. Along with chickens, I think that, if you want your yard space to be a garden, to grow vegetables, grow flowers, you should have the right to do that in your own backyard and nourish your family with things that you grow in your own property. So I'm pro chicken with responsible rules around it.
Thank you. Ryan?
I am also pro backyard chicken with reasonable constraints, whether that's no roosters, whether that's a certain offset from your neighbor's property, or if they have to be enclosed within a coop, or what the fencing situation is. I think that we should study what other cities have done, what has worked and what hasn't worked, and go from there. I believe that it's a great educational opportunity for families to teach their children how to fend for themselves and raise for themselves, as well as getting the nutritional aspect of it. I don't look forward to the end result when it's time to consume the chicken, but I'm not entirely sure how many people have backyard chickens for that purpose. But in any case, I am pro chicken, but I think it needs to be researched and we need to do it right, rather than giving and then taking away later.
And Quinlan?
I'm also pro chicken. So I don't know. I have what is probably considered the biggest little free garden. Little free garden is something that was started in Moorhead, where I try to basically plant enough produce to feed 3 different families. Um, I believe that you should have the option to have at least, you can have 2 chickens on a fairly small property. And even if we don't allow butchering of chickens, and so once they stop producing eggs, they either have to go to a different farm or you just have to keep them as pets for the rest of their lives. It's a good learning opportunity for kids, and it's fun to have chickens. As somebody who grew up having chickens, it's kind of nice to have them.
Thank you. We'll now go to closing statements where you can talk about chickens or turkeys or anything else you'd like in your last minute. And we start with Matt.
Well, thank you, Legal Women Voters, for putting this on. I ran in 2001. I remember being and doing the forum in person. This Zoom thing certainly works. Was able to read the school board candidate stuff in the paper this morning. But to finish up, the reason I'm running for Moorhead City Council Ward 1 is because I'm a lifelong resident of Moorhead. My wife and I are. Raised 3 kids. I've started a business. I've started 2 nonprofits. Those experiences give me the leadership to be a voice for the city, for the North Moorhead Ward 1 city residents. You know, Moorhead's a very strong community. Moorhead people come back to live in Moorhead, and it certainly seems stronger in North Moorhead. You know, I talked to a guy today who lived in North Moorhead for 50 years. North Moorhead residents like transparency and accountability, and I will bring those traits if elected. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexa?
I want to say thank you also to the League of Women Voters for putting this on and for inviting us tonight. I enjoy getting to hear everyone's answers and thoughts on how to make Moorhead a better place. I just want to reiterate what I truly stand for. I'm passionate about affordable and safe housing for all residents of Moorhead. I believe we can achieve this by prioritizing smart housing developments, building diverse housing inventory, and continued collaboration with agencies serving those seeking housing and facing housing insecurities. I also believe small businesses are essential for a diverse and welcoming community. Residents should be encouraged to start small business that enrich our community with the support of their city and comfort, knowing that they will have the tools to remain successful. And thirdly, I believe that as a city council member, responsive leadership is the most priority. And so being an advocate for the residents of Ward 1, as a very new mom, I want to create a city that I'm proud to raise my family and continue to be proud to raise my family in. So thank you.
Thank you. Ryan?
All right, early and absentee voting is going on right now, and it's important that you make a plan to vote, whether that's early in person, by mail, or on election day. What matters most is that you vote and that your voice is heard. And while you may not always agree with me on every issue, you can be sure to know where I stand and that I will always do what I feel is right for Moorhead. As Paul Wellstone said, we all do better when we all do better, and we're all in this together. I want to thank the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley for hosting this virtual candidates forum, and thank all who are watching this for their time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you. And Quinlan?
I just want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting. This was a wonderful experience, and I love always hearing everybody's responses. As an early childhood advocate and somebody who plans to own a daycare, I'm really passionate about children and making sure that they have the best life possible. And so part of my reason for doing this is to help with that, to help children get the best education, the best town, the best experience growing up. Them and their parents have a hard time sometimes, and it's nice to have their town behind them. I also really advocate for being able to listen to your constituents and listening to what your population wants, because they're the ones who are experiencing what's going on. So you need to be able to listen to them and know that you are there for them. Thank you.
And Christine?
I'm a seasoned public servant. I served on the school board from 1998 to 2013, and I'm now chair of the Moorhead Public Service Commission. Through that time, through all of those different roles, I have been a servant leader. I've listened to what people want and have acted according to my best understanding of their wishes. I feel that it's a good time for me to run for office because I think it's a great time for Moorhead. It's an exciting time for Moorhead. And I believe that I'm the person that can take your ideas and, and move them to fruition. I'm thankful to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. It's been a pleasure getting to know my opponents, and I hope the best for all of them in the outcome of this election. Thank you.
Thank you to all of the candidates. You guys are a great contribution to our local democracy by your participation. I'm so glad that you are running. Thank you to all the League of Women Voters volunteers who helped put this on. And everyone make sure that they, if you have not yet responded to the 411.org solicitation, please do so as candidates so people can be able to access more information about you through that website. If you may look for a email from the last weekend, I do believe they were sent out again to trying to encourage more participation. And to everyone watching, make sure you wash your hands, wear a mask, and go vote. Thank you and good night.